having possible transmission problems, or is it something else related to it? Is it a computer? Is it a TCM? Let's say when you engage in automatic, or if you're going from 2 to 3, 3 to 2, or 1 to 2, or gear change, whether you're doing manually or it's automatic, electronically controlled from the computer, from the transmission control module. There's also a PCM module, the big one, telling the TCM also what to do. As inputs, now, remember I spoke to you yesterday about how do we know what's an input? How do we know what's an output? An output is something that the computer controls. An output is something that the body control module controls. Body control module is responsible for accessories, power locks, wiper, washer, also belt restraints, the lighting systems, the radio. Those are accessories. Those do not have to do with the engine or transmission. This one has to do with transmission, engine, air, fuel, control. But we need inputs to the computer to tell it what the present condition is. Those inputs can come as switches. Those inputs can come as sensors. This is a knock sensor. If it's a knock sensor, even though I don't know anything about what a knock sensor does, a sensor is a device telling you the present condition. Maybe oxygen, maybe air, maybe pinging, maybe knocking in this case. Something is going on in the engine. Something is going on in the air chamber. Something is going on in the transmission. Something is going on in the alternator. And I want to know what's going on, the computer says. It's my responsibility. I want to know what's going on. You keep me updated, right? Well, we keep them updated by telling him, here's a sensor, here's an input. This is an input. One side goes to ground, the physical ground. The other side goes to KS, which is knock sensor. Whether it's an intake air temperature sensor, whether it's a mass flow sensor, whether it's an oxygen sensor, it is an input to the main computer. And which computer? The PCM or the ECM, not the body control module. If I ask you right away, what is the body control module? I have problems with the lighting. Who's responsible? You should say body control module. If I ask you mass airflow sensor, I'm not getting any inputs or outputs. Who's responsible? The powertrain control module or the ECM module. The body control module has to do with accessories, not engine or transmission. Now, again, I feel a tough engage going in my gear shift when I go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, or 1 to 2, whatever it is, right? In our case, let's say the customer complains they have a tough shift in this one. Let's say in going from when you upshift and you downshift. You go to another place, they said, possible transmission problem. Another person says, transmission control module problem, right? I went through this. So you bring it to me and you say, okay, you know what? What's responsible for these things? I pull out a schematic, okay? You could put a scanner. But one thing I have to say about scanners, we rely too much about scanners. The mechanics today, they rely too much. When it says oxygen sensor, let's just change the oxygen sensor. Nobody measures, is there a connector? Is it connected? Is the wire good? Nobody even takes time to do those things. All they know is a sensor. It takes this. It says sensor code. If you have a code reader or whatever you have, it's quick to change that. And if it's not that problem, then what do you do? So what I'm saying is, let's say you have a problem with upshifting or downshifting on a second clutch. Meaning, let's say I feel the engagement, right? You shouldn't. An automatic, it should be smooth. Correct? I go from second to third, or I go back from third to second. And I feel engagement, a hard engagement. What happens? Right away, transmission problems, right? Let's look at these switches over here. Second clutch transmission fluid pressure switch. Okay? Third clutch. So this would be from second to third, third to second, and second would be actually from first to second, second to first, actually. So Fourth also would be the same criteria. Okay, what's going on here? Where do you think this is going back? This is a switch. If it's a switch, it's giving information. The switch, when it's in the open position right now. See, there's nothing connected here in this position. Bring this over here. What is it connected to? It's connected to ground. That, where do you think it's going to? If it's an input or a sensor or a switch, it gives information. That means it's going to go to the computer. You remember I just introduced this video and I said anything giving information has to go to the computer. It has to go through him before anything happens. What's this for? Fluid pressure. This tells you how much the pressure is. The fluid pressure is. Okay? Now, you want, in some cars, some models, obviously more models, when you engage, it cuts off the fluid pressure, so a lower pressure, and that's how you won't feel the engagement. So this is telling it I'm going from second to third. Here's a ground. I'm giving you a ground signal to this, right? You know what? Try to turn off the pressure or lower it or lessen the pressure, the fluid pressure, transmission fluid pressure, so that the customer or the driver will not feel the engagement. And it's done so quickly, we don't even feel it. So when this happens, when you don't feel it, then that engagement, that means these switches are working. That means this PCM is working. That means the transmission control module is working. That means the solenoids are working. That means the valve body is working. Planetary gears, clutches, band, anything you meant, everything's this decides, and it gives it in data. This decides, tells back that transmission control module to take care of the solenoids. Remember, electronic is solenoids are open electronically to change the gears. It could be hydraulically also by fluid, but more or less it's it's electronically. You open and close the solenoids, which allow fluid to go through something called a valve body to change the gears. We want it done smoothly, and that's how it is. So a person's complaining, no, I feel it. Well, that's because there's a problem with the switch, or there's a problem with the connector. It's not getting the information from this switch about the pressure, right? Therefore, when this happens, you feel the engagement. When I go over here and I go to the computer, I don't even see this wire connected. Had nothing to do with transmission, had nothing to do with transmission control module, had nothing to do even with the switch. If you put a scanner on it, you're going to get a code that probably say, you know what, transmission fluid pressure switch, second clutch, fine. But you still have the responsibility of making sure that input is going to wherever it's supposed to go. And in our case, that input has to go to the main module, which is going to control another module, which is going to control another transmission. And that's missing. Why is it missing? It needs this wire, right? It needs a black, what is this? Can't even see the, blue black wire with a stripe of black to give us information. If this is open from here to here, no information will be coming. We'll have a hard engagement. So therefore, never assume anything. This is my main point. Listen, this is hardwiring. This is not a printed circuit board. I have an example of a printed circuit board from a module. I showed this at one time. This is, let's say, a module. Surface mount are these components. Okay, these are chips. All these black little things with these leads are called chips. These are called capacitors. Surface mount technology is when it's on the top of it. These are the pads. Okay, not to go too deep into it. Now, on one side you have components from these modules. The other side, these are double-sided. The other side, you also have connections. These are, again, capacitors. These are diodes. This is surface mount. Surface mount meaning here is the pad out here, and I put the component on top of it. Through hole means here you put, this is the connector. You see this connector right here where it goes, where it fits. Look how many pins you have. Okay, you have 9 pins. 9 pins are represented by these. Okay, the square one is the number 1 pin. Where is there a connection? There's a connection from here to here. On this side of the board, there are 2 sides. On the top of it, there's more connections. On the other side, there's more connections over here from these pins. Okay, my point is, this is a connection from here. See this? These are the lands. These are the connections. The green little stripes you see here, these are the connections. These don't fail that much. This is not called hardwiring. This is hardwiring. Harnesses. And you know what? They open, they get chewed up by rodents, anything possible. The environment, the element environments, water can seep in. This is hardwiring, and you have to accept it. You know what? There might be a wire open, and that if that wire is open, it might break open, it might touch a chassis, which might short something. The other part of the equation is that I wanted to say, I did see many videos, actually, many channels, and about modules and soldering and poor connections. Hopefully I'll make a video. And when it comes to through hole, you think you have a bad solder. I really wasn't pleased how they were soldering. You have to take off the old solder first. You don't leave a lump there of solder and put the soldering tool to it. Number one, I take away the solder. How do I know that there's a pad over there? Maybe it was lifted. Maybe there is no pad and there's no connection. So by you just going and putting more solder on top of it doesn't help the problem, because there's no connection from here to wherever it's supposed to go on the board. So in other words, if this is a bad solder joint and it's loose, and I go and I just dump more solder on it, how do I know there's a connection from here to wherever it's supposed to go? How do I know that? I could take an ohm meter, which I always do, and I measure from here to wherever it goes. That's what I do. But first I take out the old solder, either by a solder sucker, and I'll show you when I do this video. Hopefully I have enough views. You take it out and you make sure that the pad is still there. If not, you got a pad problem. You have to make a connection from there to there. So these type of problems are different. But you don't go and put a blob of solder on it. That was terrible. Okay? Take it out, put in brand new solder. Put something called flux. Flux will melt it quicker. And then you clean up what you dirtied. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean, and you'll understand it much better. Again, about the transmission, about all these things. I hope this was informative. Please, next week I hope to go under the hood and really do hands-on. I think you will see things that I don't think you have ever seen these things before, anytime, anywhere in electronics. Thanks for watching.